Stop. Stop now. Chicago police, show me your hands. Show me your hands. Drop it. Drop it. Those words are not suggestions, they are commands. When confronted with a suspect who has a gun, who then turns towards you, you have a split second to decide to either kill or be killed. What would you do?
Armed robbery in progress. See surplus store corner People's Drive on 24th Street.
The most dangerous security emergency in this country today is law enforcement under siege. The attack on police officers is so egregious that members of Congress are actually promoting that we simply get rid of cops. Take, for example, Democrat Congresswoman Rashida Tlaib. She wants no more police. Quote, "It wasn't an accident. Policing in our country is inherently and intentionally racist. Daunte Wright was met with aggression and violence. I am done with those who condone government-funded murder. No more policing, incarceration, and militarization. It can't be reformed." And her pal and squad mate, AOC, echoes her sentiment. Daunte Wright's killing was not a random, disconnected accident. It was the repeated outcome of an indefensible system that grants impunity for state violence, rewards it with endlessly growing budgets at the cost of community investment, and targets those who question that order. And former President Obama simply wants to reimagine policing, whatever that means. And don't you dare accord police their constitutional rights. You know, the same rights that even illegals get, even if we don't know their names or their background or even where they're from. The latest example, the city manager of Brooklyn Center, where Daunte Wright was shot. The city manager was fired for saying the officer involved should be given due process.
All employees working for the city of Brooklyn Center are entitled to due process with respect to discipline. This employee will receive due process.
Since when are police not entitled to constitutional rights? After that insanity, even the chief from that police department quit. And he's not alone. Police are quitting all across the country because while police have our backs, no one, and I mean no one, has theirs. I, for one, am tired of hearing police being called racist killers and government-sanctioned murderers. After more than 3 decades in law enforcement, I've been to far too many funerals of police who gave their lives for people they didn't even know to buy into that left-wing insanity. And why is no one talking about the armed insurrection on our streets across America? And crime is up by huge numbers across the country, especially in big cities. Last week, 2 children were shot in New York City. No outrage, no protest, just gangbangers shooting at each other with collateral damage not worth mentioning. Chicago, Baltimore, L.A., New York, Oakland, Washington. These shootings happen all the time, especially every weekend on the south side of Chicago, where black lives are lost as a result of black-on-black crime. It doesn't matter how old the victim is or how many are shot. The outrage occurs only if a cop pulls the trigger. And when that happens, the marching, the looting, and the riots start, and we, the taxpayers, pay the price. And then there's the defund the police movement. Oakland tried that and couldn't figure out why there was a rise in crime and then reinstated the funding. Are people really that stupid? The cops are not just leaving the police force in droves. The ones who are staying are not making arrests because they fear prosecution from prosecutors looking to indict cops, not criminals. So what really are the numbers? In 2020, 45 police officers were killed by gunfire. So far in 2021, 15 have been killed. In the whole year of 2020, 17 unarmed black men were shot and killed by police. That's out of 10 million arrests nationwide. So the chances of you being shot as an unarmed black man is 0.00017%. But it doesn't matter to those on the left. If the Democrat leftists get their way, there will be true anarchy on the streets of America. And then what? Who do we call? Ghostbusters? That blue line is what separates a criminal from a barbaric society. Make no mistake, these leftists speak for very few people. 81% of African Americans don't want police defunded. In fact, they want the same or more police. Yet Democrat politicians want you to think cops wake up every day to kill blacks. If the squad didn't have special police protection, high wire fencing, metal detectors, maybe they would understand what it's like for minorities who are overwhelmingly the victims of crime, or regular people like the McCloskeys, and even former DA Jackie Lacey. Her husband in L.A. was charged for taking out a gun to defend themselves from protesters. And the amazing part of all this is that no one puts themselves in the shoes of the law enforcement officer who is trained to respond and make a decision based on what they know at the moment of interaction, not what the Monday morning quarterbackers gather or the talking heads pontificate. Take a listen to the call that brought Officer Eric Stillman to the dark alley in Chicago on the night when Adam Toledo was shot.
Chicago emergency sampler.
Yeah, there was about 7 or 8 gunshots fired on the 2300 block of South Sawyer.
2300 block of Sawyer.
Yeah, I'm hearing a lot of commotion right now.
Did you see anything?
No, I just heard it.
How many did you hear?
6 or 7.
Imagine the dark alley that Chicago Officer Stillman is in. He's giving chase after being sent to a scene of shots fired and fully expecting an armed confrontation.
We're talking about a barely 13-year-old, developmentally disabled, special needs kid who is in 7th grade, a Latino kid in 7th grade, who's shot in the eye. There's a lot of things, a lot of layers there, sociological and so forth. Parents are as fearful of police as they are of gangbangers or crooks.
Yet the police knew nothing of what Geraldo spoke. They only know to expect an armed confrontation when there are shots fired. Police officers make a split-second decision, kill or be killed. Officer Stillman knew this was an area where Latin kings congregated. And after patting down the first suspect, there were 2 of them. He found no gun. But he saw something transferred between the 2 individuals. So he gave chase to the second suspect while yelling, "Stop! Stop now! Chicago police! Show me your hands! Show me your hands! Drop it! Drop it!" Those words are not suggestions. They are commands. But yet Officer Stillman sees a gun in the right hand of Toledo, and with no place to protect himself, in less than 1 second from the time he sees a gun, he shoots. He then immediately tries to render aid for Adam Toledo and calls for help. He shot only once because he knew the situation was contained. Folks, there is a war going on the streets of our large cities, and we give police officers the power and the authority to demand compliance. There was no compliance. There was a chase and repeated demands. In 0.8 of a second from when seeing a gun, the officer made the decision to shoot. This is not a level playing field where there are 2 guys with a gun and we take sides. Far from it. One is an individual fleeing down an alley from law enforcement who later is found to have gunshot residue on his hand and a Latin gang tattoo. The other is a police officer to whom we've given training, a badge, a gun, and the legal authority to use it to protect society at large. Do police need more training? Maybe. But there are inescapable truths that no training can change. When confronted with a suspect who has a gun, who then turns towards you, you have a split second to decide to either kill or be killed. What would you do?